Once upon a time, or most precisely, in the late 19th century, the wonderful novelist Chopin was enormously criticized for a marvelous book that she had written, The Awakening. That was a long time ago, but tell me, do you love the sea? Edna Pontellier, the protagonist of this story, did love it very much. Indeed, at a time when she was extremely sad, the sea played an important role in her self-development. 3 parts had this process, and 3 parts had the book. Do you see the connection already? Don't worry, let me tell you the story so you can understand what I mean. This story starts in Grand Isle, Louisiana. At the age of 28, Edna Pontellier is already a wife and a mother of 2 children, where she feels alone in the world. One summer, at a seaside resort, she starts her awakening. It is from this point onwards that she attempts to have a new life by leaving her house and falling in love with another man. Unfortunately, women's independence, especially in the late 19th century, was not easy. So after the failure of her new life plan and the ending of her self-discovery, she decides to come back to the seashore where everything had started. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with the sea? At the beginning of Edna's awakening, the sea works on her as a seducer into her inner world, and she feels unconsciously attracted to it. The voice of the sea speaks to the soul. The voice of the sea is seductive, never ceasing, whispering, clamoring, murmuring, inviting the soul to wander in abysses of solitude. Mrs. Pontellier was beginning to realize her position in the universe as a human being, and everything was thanks to the sea. But the sea does not only illustrate Edna's process, it also leads us to other important themes, marriage and motherhood. Edna tells us that her marriage was an accident that makes her feel an indescribable oppression. She doesn't even feel like a mother woman. The absence of her children is sort of a relief. Of course, she would give up the unessential for them, but wouldn't give herself. She is no longer the same obedient wife and sociable woman she used to be. She desires freedom from her husband and children. So when she comes back to New Orleans, these feelings of liberation Edna had at the sea contrast now with her sentiment of despair towards her family life. There is nothing here that reflects her inner self. So the days at the sea swirl around with her thoughts. Very slowly, she develops feminist ideas. She began to look with her own eyes, to see and to apprehend the deeper undercurrents of life. No longer she was content to feed upon opinion. Indeed, she even receives a piece of advice that encourages her to keep fighting.
The bird that soars above tradition and prejudice must have strong wings.
From wife, mother, and society woman, Edna changes into a unique woman of her own, free and independent. Chopin has used the sea throughout the story to symbolize freedom, freedom from others, and freedom to be one's own self. Having awakened to a new version of herself, Edna believes there is nothing else to do but to reject that society that does not accept her in her new self-realization. In the end, we are presented with a woman who has awakened to passionate life, and yet, almost thoughtlessly, chooses to lie in the sea's soft embrace.